Thank you so much for coming. Just a reminder to please mute yourself for the entirety of the workshop. We'll have a Q&A portion at the end. So if you have any questions, you'll be able to ask them then, or you can always put them in the chat so one of the hosts can ask them. So this workshop is brought to you by Animal Activism Mentorship. We're a free online global program dedicated to pairing experienced mentors with those who want to gain the knowledge, experience, and confidence necessary to start speaking up for non-human animals. You can sign up for a free mentor at animalactivismmentorship.com, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Animal Activism Mentorship. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce tonight's workshop titled Starbucks Drop the Upcharge Campaign, led by AAM mentor and animal rights activist Nick Lee. Based in Seattle, Nick began protesting outside of Starbucks headquarters daily starting January 23rd, demanding that the 80-cent non-dairy upcharge be dropped. Since then, demonstrations have begun to happen all over the country in pursuit of this campaign, including 3 daily, 2 in Seattle and 1 in Honolulu, Hawaii. Very exciting stuff. So with that, I turn the floor over to Nick.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Really happy to be giving another workshop. I gave one last month. Shout out to anybody who's coming back. Really excited to be able to discuss what we've done and this campaign in general, because we've worked really hard. This is one of the most difficult things a lot of us in Seattle have ever done for activism. And now we are 47 days in a row. We've been protesting outside of 2 different Starbucks. And on top of 1 now in Hawaii, and they're being protested daily. And these are Seattle flagship locations, and we've gotten some just attention from that, certainly by security, by the restaurants themselves. So despite that, we've only focused on legal tactics. We've just simply done everything we can to maintain peace, and that's what I encourage for everybody. So we'll talk all about what's been most effective for us and what I encourage you to do and how you can help. What I love about this campaign is anyone can help, because it's Starbucks, not just in person, but on the phone as always. So there's a role for everyone. We're now international. We have some Canadians that have been helping, both in Edmonton and Calgary. So thank you so much to them. That's, I'm certain, isn't going to be the last 2 cities. And I'm hoping that many more can happen tonight. And that is my biggest. All right. Okay. Everyone should be able to see my screen. Everybody hear me and see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So this is Decaf Your Coffee. That's what we've kind of jokingly called it. But ultimately, our campaign is about, we're demanding, we are being uncompromising, and we are not relenting when we say we want you to drop the upcharge, Starbucks. There's many reasons to drop the upcharge, and and I think one of the biggest we can affect ultimately is pressure on them, and that's why I want everyone to see what they can do. So everyone go to Facebook, by the way, and just follow Starbucks Decaf Your Coffee, and also on Instagram we just made an Instagram. I just made it today called @DecafYourCoffee as well. One thing I also want to mention, if you're tuning in from online, please check out the description. There's going to be a bunch of links there. If this is several months from now, this might not be relevant at all. Maybe we'll have one, but if we haven't one, definitely just check out the links below, because those will be your most, there might be a lot of updates. The first link will be the Facebook Starbucks Decaf Your Coffee link. And there'll be all sorts of resources on there, far more than what I can give tonight. Starting in a few weeks from now, that'll be much more developed. So I just want to give a shout out to Animal Activism Mentorship. They just announced today their Chicago Convergence 2022. Panima, if you want to drop the donation button in the link or in the chat, if anybody, or the donation link, that'd be great. We're trying to raise, AAM wants to raise thousands of dollars, because it takes a lot to put on an entire conference. Where we're hoping to make a lot of change. So if you can make it out, that'd be great. It's 10 days of activism. And then this is even more so more so focused on new activists and developing you and making you more effective in your own communities. I can't wait to go. I am almost certain I'll be able to be there, and I can't wait to see all of you folks there as well. And again, and also just a big shout out to Animal Activism Mentorship. It's been the coolest organization that I started out as a mentee almost a year ago, and now I became a mentor right afterwards. And I've loved doing it ever since. And I've loved being in the community and seeing what AAM does, particularly the results that AAM has put out and how effective I felt they have been. So why drop the upcharge? Why is it so vital? And I'm sorry, I don't have much of a script or anything, or many graphics. Let's talk about why it's so important. So in our movement right now, the animal rights movement has been around for a long time, and we've gone through all sorts of phases about what's been the most popular strategies or tactics. And right now, a lot of the last several years has been very focused on outreach and increasing veganism, as veganism has grown. It wasn't really as common 20, 30, 40 years ago. And with that, we need access to vegan options at the best price and at the best convenience. And doing this, succeeding in this campaign, will feed both of those birds 2 scones if we do that. And what I mean by that is we can make it more easy to be vegan. And also, I think this is one of the most important things we can do to help take dairy away from the default. Because right now, dairy is the least default it's ever been. In the 80s, it was about all you could see. It was until 1997, Starbucks only offered dairy. Then they offered soy milk. Now they offer 4 different milks. And in the UK, they offer 5. So we've come a long way. And that's awesome. But in order to keep moving, in order to make vegan outreach effective, we have to make veganism as easy and accessible as it can be. And there's lots of issues when you upcharge for alternative milks. And I believe taking away that will make it so that, well, why would they even want to default to dairy? If it's, let's just say for some reason, they're building oat milk factories right now. If it's cheaper to produce oat milk, what if they made oat milk the default in a matter of months or years? That's all a possibility, but this is the first step, is dropping the vegan surcharge on these non-dairy milks and helping make all of them. Then it's a matter of what milk do you like, instead of do you want dairy or do you want to do an alternative? Like, why is dairy all the default? I firmly believe we can. This is one of the biggest and most far-reaching and persuasive next steps we can take to making everyone drop these upcharges, not just for dairy in their coffee, but anything at all. Ultimately, we need to make sure veganism is accessible to everybody. And there's many fights, and I think this is one of the best fights. And actually, I guess just one more thing I want to talk to a little bit about why this is so vital also. Or actually, let's talk about why I think this is the best thing that you can do. And that's because anyone at all can participate basically fully. If you're in the US, if you're in Canada, if you're in many, many countries, you can participate to the fullest extent. You can do any in-person demos, you can do any phone calls you want, you can leave comments on social media. There's many ways in which you can target Starbucks. And what's good also is that we've laid an incredible foundation. Because we've gone to the headquarters for 47 days in a row. We've also gone to the Starbucks flagship restaurant called the Roastery 23 days in a row. Someone's there right now. And because we've done those, we've obviously gotten a lot of attention, and we've built a lot of pressure up against them. On the very left of my screen, you'll see us standing right outside this really, really fancy, hundreds of people can enter this restaurant, and we're standing directly outside with signs. And just behind me is actually someone who's now outreaching out to someone outside who's wanting to learn more. So we've done all sorts of tactics. What we typically do when we go to the Roastery, one of the 2 places we go to every single day, is we will stand outside for several minutes with signs. And it's pretty awkward when when all of the windows or several of the windows outside of a restaurant are now, with people right up against the windows, are now seeing people with signs. And but we've also done sit-ins, and believe it or not, sit-ins have been the most effective tactic in my opinion. We have been doing every demo possible, trying to see what's best. And we found sit-ins, when I first started doing them, I was thinking, oh, this is kind of lazy. It's just kind of the easiest thing. All you have to do is sit inside Starbucks with a sign leaned up against your chair and do whatever you want. And that's the most effective thing. But yeah, in my experience, one of the most effective things you can do is use the fact that Starbucks has a third place policy, which means you don't have to order a drink or anything in order to sit inside with signs and display your message. Unless under a ridiculous circumstance where an employee against their third place policy tells you to leave, you have every right to be there. So we've had all sorts of demos. On the bottom right, it was Honolulu, Hawaii. On the top right was Atlanta just a couple weeks ago. And the two middle photos were sit-ins at the two main Starbucks that we've been going to every single day, several of us for 47 days now. So let's talk strategy. So we need them to drop the upcharge. And that means taking whatever loss of revenue that is. And there's obviously some loss of revenue based on how many upcharges they sell a day, how many times people pay 80 cents to get non-dairy milk. And however, because it doesn't exist in every country, and because they just dropped it in the UK due to an incredible campaign called Switch for Good, or excuse me, group called Switch for Good, which ran a campaign and did a false little news announcement pretending to be Starbucks, saying that they were going to drop the upcharge. And 3 weeks later, Starbucks actually dropped the upcharge after denying that and saying that they weren't going to drop the upcharge. So the strategy is we need them to drop the upcharge. We have to remember they've raised prices twice in the last 5 months, both in October of last year and then January of this year. And then right afterwards, they announced in February they're going to be upping them again. And it's important to remember that lots of companies are price gouging right now. What people are calling inflation is little more than companies just raising prices like crazy for really various reasons. But ultimately, Starbucks is hitting record profits. There's absolutely nothing stopping them as far as there's nothing that would put them really in any hole if they were to drop the upcharge. And they know that if they want to meet their sustainability goals, which is to drop 50% of all carbon emissions by 2030, so that they are producing 50% as much carbon. They promised that. They promised that in 2020. By 2030, they would do that. Dairy is their number one emitter with 22%. So I don't see how they can't sell less dairy. And I think the most effective way to get them to stop selling as much dairy is to drop the upcharge. So everyone really wins. And Starbucks certainly is committed to eventually dropping the upcharge, because I don't think they could meet those goals without that. So this is something I see that could be in the near future without this campaign, dropping this upcharge, but that's why specifically there's the most amount of pressure there's ever been against Starbucks, and that's why we can just keep increasing it. So let's talk about tactics. So quite often people love doing their favorite tactics. Some people love giving out leaflets and tabling. Some doing outreach demonstrations with video, like Anonymous for the Voiceless. But what people need to remember is that we also ultimately need to focus on strategy to affect our tactics, because without strategy, ultimately you actually are not making the change that you want to think you're making. So with our plan to go to Starbucks every single day, in Seattle, we obviously need, a little bit more support than just these two restaurants being protested every single day, which is why I'm giving this. So let's talk about all sorts of tactics. Again, so as you can see on the very right, sit-ins is what I put, and I think sit-ins, for some reason, unlike certain situations, sit-ins have been very effective. On my last presentation, sit-ins weren't even relevant. I have found protesting outside of stores, sit-ins, and outreach to the people who are inside the restaurant curious has been the best thing for us, genuinely. I think also sharing stuff on Facebook, inviting friends to stuff on Facebook, PMing friends with events that are happening, or telling someone, or just simply mobilizing others is probably the best thing you can do for this campaign, is to mobilize others and take what you learned tonight. That'd be great. But also in the end, I'll actually have it posted at the very end of the chat after this presentation is over. So, but that is where you can request materials. You'll just put in your address and a couple other details. What I would recommend is just ask for a couple, 2 or 3 signs. You can ask for whichever ones you want, or just say, surprise me. There's all sorts of signs that Starbucks, that we can have against Starbucks. And then ask for maybe like a pack of 100 leaflets, because there are some great leaflets that we were sent, that were made just recently. And it says Starbucks doesn't give a frap, and I really like that. So, and that has been great because we've used those leaflets very effectively. It's a little awkward, but one thing we did when we were doing a sit-in is that we decided to just we sat right in front of this very long line that was like, and every single person who walked by us who in line had to sit in front of us for like a few minutes with our just looking at our signs. And we decided to just reach our arms out, all of us, at every single person, just like that. Just reach our arms out at every single person in line. And like 3 people took our flyers immediately. All 3 of us reached out, and then we just kept doing that. So for a little while we did that. We've done all sorts of things to be able to interact funnily with customers, and it's been very effective. And we haven't harassed anybody. If anything's been borderline harassment, we've profusely apologized and promised not to do that again, because there is no reason to harass any employee. One thing I want to make very clear, I might as well just go to this right now. Here are important reminders for if you do sit-ins, you got to treat all employees and customers with utmost respect at all times. Do not refuse to leave or disobey. So if someone asks you to leave, you can briefly ask why. You can get some information. If you want to ever so slightly, just make sure, if you think it's completely unjustified or completely violates their 3rd place policy, I'm sure you can have a very brief conversation about why you're being asked to leave. But ultimately, don't disobey if they are saying we're going to call the cops or anything like that. If you're sitting in, do not start a disruption from the sit-in at any point. If you're going to disrupt, I'm not even going to speak about it really. But if you're going to sit in, don't start a disruption at the end. Please don't do that. Don't play any animal ag footage if you're inside, and don't put any signs in untaken seats. And this is similar, but if you are calling Starbucks, if you do a phone block against any Starbucks, or if there are any phone blocks that you're aware of, then certainly don't leave multiple voicemails. Don't attempt to essentially harass, or on top of multiple voicemails, don't just call several times. I think it's best that if each person just calls once and shares their thoughts about why the upcharge needs to be dropped, that is very effective. So given we've been sitting in and demonstrating for 47 days, really, I think our biggest goal right now is make this as widespread as we can. So that's obviously why we're here. So my hope is that everyone who's interested, there's ultimately no commitment that technically can be made. However, if you could aim for once a week or more doing demonstrations, that would be fantastic. If you could find your community and see if anyone would like to either join you or maybe do other days, that would also be fantastic. Anyone can order signs from the PETA website that I mentioned right there. And if you do so, please message our page. Please absolutely do so. And our Facebook Decaf Your Coffee page, and let us know that you demonstrated. Send us some photos, and we might actually post them online if you're okay with that. Because we want to show where everyone is congregating at Starbucks all over the world to demand that we drop the upcharge. There's been such an increase of people that I didn't even know about were doing it. And I'm just like, wow, we are growing so fast, which is so very reassuring. And I think even more motivating, because it shows that this is an extremely easy thing that any person can do, beginner or not. If you don't have a community nearby you, you can go to your local Starbucks. And if you do have a community, then you can work on maybe trying to get a daily demo started. By and large, there are 6 places in the world. There are 6 locations called roasteries. I mentioned the Seattle one earlier. There's 5 more on top of that. If you know anybody in any of these cities, or you live in these cities, this is by and large the most important 6 Starbucks that we could ever demonstrate against. There's one in Seattle. There's one in Chicago. There's one in New York City. There's one in Milan, Italy, Shanghai, China, and Tokyo, Japan. if I'm not mistaken. If anyone is aware of activists there that would like to start a campaign against those roasteries, that would be absolutely crucial, because they're their flagship restaurants. They're their most profitable businesses, and that will reach the largest amount of customers, and will make this campaign the most effective and far-reaching it can be. And ultimately, what I think will make them drop the upcharge is when they say, how far are they willing to go? I think they're already realizing that. I think 47 days has made them realize that we're not stopping anytime soon, and that we'll keep going as long as necessary. And we'll only increase the amount of places that we're protesting at. And that's why I'm here to just tell everybody, if you have a mentor, a mentee, anyone at all, anyone you know, you can just message and say, hey, person from New Mexico, person from South Dakota, you can start doing this and actively supporting this campaign on your own, even if you've never done an action before. And just have them and send them the information of this, because I think this is, and you can tell them that they will therefore have been single-handedly been a part of I think one of the most important victories of this year, if we can win it this year, of any year really. This is, I think, one of the biggest victories, particularly because, again, dairy, it's already kind of on its way out, with how much alternative milks are dropping or are getting more popular, to the point where it's not even like really alternative anymore. And I think this is the genuinely the biggest next step that can happen. Drawing a blank. So let's just quickly go over a little to-do list. So whatever everyone should do based on this is text Starbucks to 73822 and tell the CEO, Kevin Johnson is his name, to drop the upcharge. It'll actually pull up, what will happen is you'll receive a little link. And if you click that link, your email will pop up if you have an email associated with your phone, and that will have a pre-written email to send to Kevin Johnson. We need to have as many emails possible go to his account so that he can, among many others, can be reminded why this is so important. Please request activist materials in that link below. Join at Decaf Your Coffee on Instagram and Starbucks Decaf Your Coffee on Facebook. And then by and large, I think the most important thing you can do, technically, on top of actually doing these demos yourself and ordering some signs, is inviting every single friend you can to those pages. Doing that with another page that I opened up only a month ago. We had 250 followers in just a few days. We're nearing 400 now. That's pretty cool if you ask me. We have to, and we just made these pages a few days ago, and the Instagram was made today. So if those could be followed, and if you can just take the time, might take 10 minutes, might take 20, might take 30, but if you aren't able to invite all friends in one big click, just invite as many friends as you can who might be interested in this and might be willing to help out, and let them know that this is an incredibly cool opportunity. I have a mentee who is doing one of his first ever actions. He's been to one action, but now he's going to do his first action. He's going to host it himself with just a couple others, because it's so simple and so easy. And he'll be joining a campaign that's up and running, and it's blossomed already, and we can just make it explode from this. And keep building and building. And I believe we can achieve one of the greatest victories of this year through this. My brain, I can't think of a whole lot of what to say, but I would love to start a discussion about more and more tactics about how we can continue to proliferate this campaign. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Is so great. I know I've been seeing activists post pop-up Instagram that have been participating in the sit-ins. I've seen people making phone actions and email blasts. This has definitely taken off, and they've already announced it in the UK. So I really think it's only a matter of time before it comes to the US and everywhere else in the world. So with that, I would like to open it up to Q and really just a discussion portion, because this campaign is so widespread. I think all of our voices and input need to be heard. So if you're here on feel free to like put any comments in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Or if you're watching online on YouTube later, start a discussion in the comments. But yeah, I'll open the floor for everybody.
Don't anyone speak up at once. Mikey, yes. Looks like, yeah. So if anyone's in Atlanta, there's a Starbucks action this Sunday. So actually Sunday is day 50 in Seattle of us protesting every single day. So we're getting as many cities as possible to come. And right now, I believe we're at 9, 10, or even more now. More cities that are going to be doing demonstrations all in the same day. So to think of how many district managers are going to be reporting to their higher ups at the HQ that people from all over the country and Canada are now demonstrating. I don't like making assumptions. I don't want to be like, we could be weeks away, we could be days away, but I'm getting really, really excited as long as we keep pushing. So I think we just posted a comment, in the comments, we just posted some links. So we have, you can see our Instagram page, our Facebook page, the fundraiser for the AAM Chicago Convergence, and then but by far, requesting materials, the best thing you can do is just get a few signs and tell everyone possible to get a few signs and just start going, whether it's every week or every 2 weeks or even more so. Just showing up, doing whatever you want for 2 or more hours. We typically spend 2 to 4 hours a day at each location in Seattle. That's what we aim for, at least.
Dana, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, you said there's an 80-cent surcharge. Are all Starbucks the same? Because I was not clear on that, so I just never say anything to anybody, but I'd like to know for personal information.
I have heard 60, 70, 80, and $1 so far. So it's the standard is almost always 80 cents from what I understand. Some places apparently I have heard about dropping the upcharge, particularly on dropping the upcharge, like if it's if it's otherwise just black coffee and only upcharging for whole drinks. But that hasn't been my experience. I mean, I haven't been to Starbucks in a while, but overall, there seems to be a surcharge just about any time you ask for any milk that isn't dairy. Mm-hmm. And it's between 60 cents and $1. It's actually $1 at the headquarters.
Wow. Okay. And one more question. Cool. That's what I thought. I thought it was a couple different ones. And then you said you said this. So you said there's 4 like cow's milk alternatives at Starbucks in the United States, or there's 4 total, including the cow's milk?
There are 4 alternatives: soy, oat, coconut, and almond.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I had a question, Nick. Would you mind talking about the policy that they have in place where they ask you to leave?
Yeah. Do you like the third place policy? Perfect. Okay, yeah. So the third place policy was started by Starbucks. If I'm not mistaken, it was started around 2018 or 2019. There was an incident in which 2 men were arrested for congregating without buying anything. And because of that, Starbucks, I think, shut down for like almost an entire day to do a bunch of racial trainings and everything. And then they ended up announcing their third place policy. And what they basically said is, you can make this your third place. You got work, you got home, and then you can have Starbucks, which has been my third place for a while now. Every day after work, I go to Starbucks till like 8 something or 9 or whatever. And then I go to bed. That's my life every single day. And I go to both Starbucks on the weekends. So it's my third place. But currently right now, generally the rule is if you're not violating any rules, you aren't harassing anyone, and you're making it a comfortable place for everyone, you're welcome to stay there as long as you like. There's no requirement to leave after any amount of time. Although I forgot what I was going to say. And there was one certain circumstance in which we were asked to buy a drink, and that was think it was because it was completely full, the place. And we were like, okay. And one of us bought a bottle of water, and they didn't say anything else. So other than that, no one's required to purchase a drink. The one thing I ask is just don't buy the upcharge. If you go a lot, if you start going every single day and you're like, I need some coffee, I can't control, just don't buy the upcharge. Just don't do it. Get black coffee and look them in the eye the entire time as you take your coffee to your seat. I'm joking. Don't do that at all.
I just want to out to Belle real quick. She said she's protesting at the Starbucks roastery right now, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let that be an example to all of you after to your Starbuckses and start sitting in or protesting. But I see hand raised, so go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so recently I did the Starbucks letter that's part of the campaign with my mentee, Juliana. And I ran into the problem that my Starbucks, I had to go to several different locations because I got denied at the Starbucks to like give them the letter. They were like, we don't have to take this, the people at the cash register. So and I tried to look up the information on like where it says in Starbucks policy that they take letters for their CEO, and I just couldn't find anything. So I just wanted to know if there's any like information on that or anything like that. So if that happens again to one of the other activists among us, they can pull up information and be like, you have to take this letter.
Gotcha. So I'm aware of a campaign called their Facebook page. I actually included it in the chat. I actually included in the chat because I didn't want to say that this campaign exists. There's another campaign against Starbucks, just called Starbucks Pressure Campaign on Facebook. I believe they're the ones doing the letter writing. We've never even tried that tactic. I really can speak about it, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, I was confused at the other one. Thank you.
Of course, no worries. Yeah.
Hey, I have a question. So I know that you've been protesting at the headquarters for a while. Do you think that, because I'm thinking about just maybe going by myself, just standing outside with a sign for an hour this week, is every single location like in the country aware of what's going on? Do you think probably by this point, like, because I just don't want to like, I'm just worried about like, employees that haven't heard about it and are like caught off guard and react like, negatively.
Sure. I really can't guarantee anything about who's seen it or not. I would not be surprised if there is, you know what, I'll be honest, for all we know, Starbucks could be like keeping it under the water, not talking about it with all the union stuff that's happening right now. They might be trying to hide it from everyone, like the fact that there's more and more stores being demonstrated against. Recently, Starbucks like held a big meeting and try to get every single manager. I saw this, it was an email that was leaked and it was about the all the union stuff that's happening. So I was thinking if they ever send out an email that leaked about the upcharge situation, that would be great. But right now what I'd say is there's been such an increase recently that I don't think, there's no way you're wasting your time going to it. What I would say though is if go outside, if you're, so I forgot to mention this, I'm glad you brought this up. So in Honolulu, Hawaii, they don't really do sit-ins. They actually, every single day, they use a megaphone, they stand outside, but they stand on public property because the Starbucks is very open and has a lot of open seating. And because of that, really depends on where you live. So if you live in Los Angeles, there's probably lots of shout out to Belle, and who's currently at the roastery right now. I've gone with her almost every single day. We've become very, very good friends. So where was I? Oh my goodness, I apologize. If someone could briefly remind me. Okay, so yes, talking about like being outside. So if you're in like a nice area that particularly has a lot of Starbucks that are built to be year round, just opened up outside, I would definitely take advantage of that. I would consider, if you're more experienced, especially doing an outdoor demo and then using a megaphone, because you're using a megaphone, you're still on public property. There was a situation in which I heard that there was a consistent demo happening to the point where a manager couldn't do anything else. She walked outside and said, "What will it take for me to stop you to do this?" And our message is clear. We're not compromising on anything. The only the only demand is drop the upcharge. There's nothing else that can be done to make us stop wanting to do this. We're only going to increase. We're only going to continue to proliferate and grow in numbers until this upcharge is dropped. If I can help it, that's the plan. So I guess to your question though, yeah, if you can, I don't think you'll waste your time doing this. I think every employee will be pretty taken aback seeing the signs. They've probably never seen anything like that before. I did mention the tactic earlier where what you could do is you could sit, if there's a line at your Starbucks, you could sit at the chair closest to it and then reach your arm, not in literally like touching people, but like a couple feet from people, holding a flyer. And then it's awkward because, it's like people are just like, they'll feel compelled to take it in the end though, but you're not actually technically interacting with them first, which you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to go around bothering or filming patrons or their employees. So I hope that answers your question.
I had a quick question. So you mentioned that there's like a fifth milk, that a fifth offer in the UK. Do you know what that is?
I think it's called like a nut blend, and I think it's several different nuts. It's just something that they have. So all of their products, by the way, like they have their own setup for everything. They don't get like almond breeze. They get I think, but they actually have all of their own stuff. They get their own oat milk. That's it, or everything except for oat milk. All the other alternative milks are like Starbucks almond beverage, Starbucks this, Starbucks that. They have all their own factories doing all that for them. So I'm certain that the cost of if there is a cost difference as far as dairy versus non-dairy goes, I bet it's negligible, if anything. And that's very reassuring to remember. Shout out to Taylor.
Well, we have a bunch of people attending that are currently at Starbucks's.
Yep.
One tactic I wanted to ask about was, I think this is something we did in Atlanta, but I'm not like would a bunch of like activists going up in line and like going to order at the counter and asking if they'll waive the upcharge, and then if they refuse and don't buy anything, you can maybe do that at the end of like a big sit-in, but I think that would definitely like send a message to them.
Yeah, that's an option. That's a great idea, by the way. I love that, honestly. I've thought about that for a while. A while back, I think I heard about that manager saying, "What can I do to get you to stop?" Which is like my favorite thing in the world, by the way. And I thought, I mean, could we attempt to get like an employee thing for employees start rising up as well? If that makes any sense. I guess it's like I lost my train of thought again. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't know if this is the same for everybody else, but you're like,
No.
oh, did we lose you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh.
I think that's better. Did we lose you? All right, Wi-Fi might be cutting out. Both of our Wi-Fi's have been struggling.
Can you
You
hear me
all
now?
for bearing with us. Oh, are you back, Nick, or no?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
While we're waiting for all of our Wi-Fi's to sort out, if anybody has any other questions or any other comments or stories they about the protest, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, well, I have a question. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me, Nick? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
This is a random question though. I'm sorry. It's kind of not really quite the thing. Are there a lot of other stores that have third place policies? Because that's, I wasn't even familiar with that phrase. I knew what they did in there, but I didn't know that there was a phrase for that. Anybody know? I can look it up online. That's all.
I think the third place policy is specific to Starbucks because it came out of the arrest where two people were just like sitting there. So they like named it a third. I'm not mistaken. I'm sure that can be looked up on Google, but I think it's like other stores might, or cafe or policies, but I think the third place one is specific to Starbucks.
Thank you.
Because I think that's like such a convenient policy to have in place, and they kind of recently instated it, so it's very convenient for us activists.
Can you hear me by any chance now?
Yeah, it's still like in and out. Try turning your video off. See if that would be better saying a sentence, and then if it's not.
Does that work?
Oh, that's much better actually.
Oh, okay. So for the Q&A, I'll disable my video, maybe. All right. Any other questions anybody has at all? Oh yeah, and I guess to your question, you didn't see what I said in the chat. As far as I know, Starbucks is like the only place that has something called a third place policy. However, I'm sure there are other stores that I'm sure there are other many stores who don't require you to order anything. But if anything, we're using that as a weapon, really. The fact that you can sit in there and by policy not be told to leave. It's our best tactic, honestly.
All right, are there any other last final thoughts before we wrap up?
Is anyone gonna tell their friends, or like, hey, your mentor or your mentee, you should totally start this?
I know I definitely will.
Awesome.
All right, well, with that, I think we'll bring this to a close. Oh, wait, I think Mikey said we'll close. Oh, wait, Mike said we'll. Do you think the third place policy activists occupy the whole?
So as I mentioned earlier, so only one time have I actually been asked to buy something. It was actually when we filled it up. So yes, in that case, it was when the Starbucks was, I guess, allegedly full. I feel like I've seen it fuller, but only once have I actually been asked to buy a drink. And only one of us, like 6 or 7 people there, actually bought one. So technically, yeah, as far as I know, we were thinking the same question until we were asked to buy a drink. But as far as I know, that I wouldn't aim for that. I think that's a lot of people together. I think you can do a lot of amazing things if you can fill an entire Starbucks. Well, actually, it's not that hard if it's a regular Starbucks. I just keep forgetting the fact that most Starbucks are tiny, because the two Starbucks we sit inside are massive, larger than almost any restaurant that anyone's ever stepped foot in. Well, at least one of them.
All right, any other final questions or comments or anything like that? All right, well, wrap it up there. Nick, thank you so much for hosting this wonderful workshop. I think everybody right now, and no matter where they are in the world, or no matter like what time of day it is, they have to contribute to this campaign, whether it's, you know, protesting, sitting in, or calling, emailing. There's a lot of ways to be involved, and the good thing about Starbucks is they're global. Just like AAM is also a global program, organization. And just to recap, this workshop is brought to you by Animal Activism Mentorship. You can sign up for a free mentor with us at animal.com. A quick promo, our next workshop is titled For the Love of Chickens. It's on Thursday, March 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Karen Davis. So please join us for that. And thanks everybody for attending. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next workshop. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And again, just remember, follow Decaf Your Coffee on Facebook and Instagram. Invite as many friends as possible to join both and sign up for activist materials, and get started in your local area. Find the most flagship Starbucks you can and show up and make your voice clear.
Thanks those who are currently protesting right now.